team defense. Certainly one of my favorite areas of the game. I have strong beliefs that the team that really plays great defense has a wonderful opportunity of being victorious. I think that we don't spend enough time in the teaching of team defense, and I highly recommend that equal time be given to defense and offense. I think many times that programs will spend countless hours upon offense, very little time upon defense, just a minimum amount of time, and it has its effect. The players do love to play offense. They need to learn to love to play defense. Teams that are well conditioned and play outstanding defense can get by many times without superstars, and it's much easier to teach defense, but we must teach players to love to play defense. I think it needs to be taught individually, it needs to be scrimmaged individually, it needs to be scrimmaged on a team concept. And the subject of this entire film will be how to put together the defensive game. Now, for purposes of this film, when we talk defense, we are talking about 6-on-6 backcourt defense. We are not talking about counterattack defense. We're not talking about five-man defense. We are strictly talking about defending 6-on-6 in the backcourt. And there we are talking about how to guard the individual. And when we talk about guarding the individual, we're talking about the driver. We're talking also about the 2-meter man. When we talk about defense, we're talking about team concepts of defense, team defense, how the 6 players, 7 including the goalkeeper, work together in a defensive concept. There are a variety of concepts in defense: pressing defenses, drop back defenses, modified defenses where you're sloughing in and out, giving different looks, and these will all be the subject of today's film. I firmly feel that the team that plays great defense will always establish a tempo. I believe tempo in water polo is established through defense. Great defense leads to a great counter leads into tempo in the front court offense and tends to get you going right from the outset. Teams that are playing great defense can get by when they may be off offensively. You know, it might be a game where you have a chance of winning by 4 or 5 goals, and if you're able to still play great defense, even if the offense is off, at least you're not going to lose that game. You may win it by 1 or 2 rather than the 5 if you're off in the front court, but you can win it and win on defense. In my program, I really stress the instruction in defense. It's the first subject that we teach when players come in, after the conditioning and ball handling. When we get into the tactical aspects of the game, we begin immediately by instructing defense. When I feel they really understand it, and they understand it from the individual standpoint, they understand it from the team concept, then and only then will we move on and into other aspects of the game. We'll always return to work on defense, and we work on defense each and every day of the practice season. The thing that we found most often with the national team players was that they would come up and they would have, be great with their mobility, would have highly developed offensive skills, but many times they were marginal players when it comes to the subject of defense. And I don't think this is just true of water polo. I think we find that true in a lot of sports. And they say that the great collegiate scoring champion in basketball cannot make it in the NBA unless he can play defense. So players just really need to know how to do this. And we would spend hours with the national program teaching some of our offensive specialists to play equally on defense. When we divide the team out into what I call the playing specialties, the defensive specialists, 2-meter men, drivers. We always operate in the theory that when a player comes up into the top levels of national play, that he needs to be a jack of all trades, meaning that he must be able to play defense, he must be able to counter, he must be able to shoot, he must be able to pass, drive, all of the aspects of the game, but he must also be a specialist. And so we call it a jack of all trades, but a master of one. And it might be defense, it might be offense, driver, it might be 2-meter play. The thing, as I say, that we find lacking is the team defensive concept and even some of the individual skills. And so great time should be spent in this area of the game. So as we approach defense, we've got to build the level of the individual player up to the point that he's at least adequately defensive. He may not be a defensive specialist, but he's got to be adequate on defense. Again, as I divided years ago, the players into certain playing specialties, our defensive specialists we found we needed internationally. And when we really talk about a defensive specialist, we're talking about the big men, 6'3" to 6'7", maybe in excess of 200 pounds, the people that can really operate on the international 2-meter man, the player that matches them almost size for size. And you really can't get by guarding a 220-pound 2-meter man with a 5'9", 160-pound driver. And yet that driver occasionally is going to be switched on to that 2-meter man. So again, players must learn to defend in all areas. They must learn when they're outmanned to make immediate switches. The smaller you are, the earlier you should foul on the 2-meter man and get off of him as quickly as possible. And just as we have the 2-meter man as a specialist, the offensive driver as a specialist, we have the 2-meter guard, the big man, as a pure defensive specialist. I truly think as our defensive game improved internationally, we really then came up into the top ranks of the international teams. For years, the United States had a lot of trouble, particularly with the faster moving driving quicker teams, the Spanish, the Italians. And as we work to improve our defensive game, our play against them as well as our play against the Russians, the Hungarians, the Yugoslavs, the Germans, the bigger teams improved immensely as well. And we always felt that we needed to be able to balance out, meaning that we must play well against the smaller, faster teams and against the bigger and stronger teams. And in all cases, matching out meant matching out and being able to play against them and their quickness or their size and their strength defensively. And so we trained large defensive specialists to help control the 2-meter area, trained all of the players in the defensive skills, and literally expected everyone to be an outstanding defensive player. I can't think of a more important area of the game to work. I truthfully can't. And if you want to take an average team and make it good to great, really start with the defense. All right, we will start with the defense. We're going to move over to the pool, and we're going to start looking at the one-on-one phase of defense. And when we talk about the one-on-one phase of defense, we're talking about learning how to defend a driver, something that, you know, in many programs in this country, in many leagues, you don't learn much about. You don't have to do much about it. Many offenses are what we'd call vertical offenses, 3-3 set offenses, and the player in this country oftentimes learns to play against the 2-meter man, which is obviously individual. He learns how to play against the pick, but he's not too effective against a driver. So we've got to get out. We've got to learn how to play defense against a driver. We need to learn how to play defense against the 2-meter man, and these are the areas of individual defense that we'll approach first. After we've touched that, then we'll move into the team concepts, how we work on time switches, filling gaps on 2-meter switch outs, and so on. And training in many of the drills that went into building our, defensive concepts, right from good defense through to recovering from minor mistakes, to recovering from major mistakes, and applying all of these concepts to both one-on-one and total team defense. So let's move to the pool and let's take a look at them. All right, now at poolside, we're going to look at some of the individual fundamentals in guarding the driver. And we've noticed we've moved the driver out now to where most drives start, between 6 and 8 meters. And we're going to look at some of the mistakes that we could make against a driver and what we want to concentrate on to then eventually to make it right and do a good job on the driver. We're just simply going to walk through these things, and then later in the film, when we show you all of the drills that lead to perfecting these concepts. And we work for hours, as I say, with the national program on defense. All right. Here we go. First of all, if you're looking, we've got the hand check. Now, we don't like the players, and that's oftentimes taught, but we don't like the hand check, because if a hand check is done during the dead time, that's an ejection. And with a backcourt official, a hand check, particularly above the water, is very noticeable. And with a backcourt official, and if it's done in the dead time, you're going to get that official ejecting the player. So right away, I think that's a poor concept. It's also a poor concept because it gives you a chance to grab. Now, here's the hand check, and look at the offensive player grabs under the elbow, and he's right around and has immediately beaten that defensive player. So when you put an extremity out against the other player's chest, you're taking a real chance of being giving them something to grab onto and being beaten. All right, now we're going to have the player with crowding with both hands up. You'll see this oftentimes, and that, again, as soon as you take one of the four pieces of equipment that you have to maneuver your body, meaning both legs and both arms, as soon as you take one arm out, you've cut by 1/4 your opportunity to defend. When you take two arms out, you've cut by half. And if you crowd outside at 7 or 8 meters, you're making a terrible mistake if you crowd to start with, but also if you put both hands up, because you're just asking to be beaten. Now we're going to get the player off a little bit, playing it safe, and he's got his hips up and he's ready to swim with the player. And here we come through. He's using both of his arms and both of his legs, and you notice that the player had no inside water, and that is the concept, to take away the inside water. And no inside water was allowed, and left the player only the RB. In all cases, with the RB, on any defense that's played from 6 to 4 meters in our system, we always have stair-step help. We always drop in and help defend against the RB. Our other players are constantly monitoring any driver. If that drive passes behind another defensive player's back, he will drop in to do two things. First of all, to take the passing lane away from the 2-meter man. Secondly, he will drop in if he sees the RB coming and will defend the RB from behind. All right, now we're going to look at that same drive, and we will get the RB, and this time, however, we're going to put a stair step in so we can look at that. And we underline the fact that from 6 to 4 meters, that is the most dangerous area for the driving defensive player to defend, because he must protect inside water. If you give away inside water, you're giving away a shot, a 4-meter, or an ejection. Those are all chances that take place. If you're protecting inside water, you really need to worry only about the RB. But from 4 to 6, you're most vulnerable, because that's where you've really got to protect that inside water. So that's where we'll drop in and give some drop-in help. Okay, now we're going to look at this same drive with the good drive defense, forcing the RB, and with the help with the defense on that stair-stepping in. Here comes the drive. And simply stair-step or drop back in, but please don't make contact with the face. Just take the passing lane or the shot down from behind. Now, when the drive begins at 5 or 4 meters, we have a different concept for the defender of the driver. He, first of all, must protect the inside water, but he doesn't have as much inside water to protect. So he shuts the inside down. As soon as he's done that, you know the offensive player is going to be at 2.5 to 3.5 meters. He's not going to really be effective inside after that, because he's also possibly being guarded by the goalie, or the 2-meter guard is maybe assisting as well. So in most cases, once you shut inside water down from 5 meters, the offensive player is going to do one of two things. He's either going to clear the area completely, or first of all, he's probably going to pop and try to get a hand up free to take the a shot on cage. So the idea now of the defender is to still protect inside water initially, but to immediately, once he shut the inside down with inside 4 meters, he will go to the vertical himself, come up, really monitor the ball, and start using his hands. Before, recall, he was using his hands to swim and expecting help from the outside. Now he cannot expect help from the outside, so he is going to use his hands and come up in the vertical because he has really taken the player's inside away. All right, we'll take a look at it. Here comes the inside drive. He swims first. Now he's up. He's protecting. He gets a hand up, and he tries to really play the ball there rather than the man. And here we'll take another look at it. Here's the drive. He's got it. Now he's up. He's his hands up, and this time he intercepts the ball. Again, when we move out after these 2 drills, as you'll see with the Olympic team, then we'll move the drive back out to 7-8 meters, and we'll work on the entire phase of the game with the drive, allowing the driver to do anything but offensive foul, and really seeing if the players are concentrating on the correct skills, the proper body positioning. And defense against the driver is all body positioning, and you can't position your body unless you have both arms and legs in the water. All right, with that in mind, we're going to look now back out at 7 or 8 meters at a stop and go, which is a very dangerous move offensively, and how to really defend the stop and go. And that is simply follow the rules that you've already been taught. Just keep swimming for position and know that you're going to get help from 6 to 4 meters in on the RB. So slide first of all to a protective position on the inside, expect help from the outside, and then close it down if it is an RB. So we're going to look at a stop and go followed by a drive with an RB and see how the defensive principles remain the same against the driver. Okay, looking at driving the defender against the stop and go, let's look at it with the mistake first. He'll bait the stop and go. He falls for it. He stops. He's beaten inside. There's the shot and the goal. Now we're going to come right back and look at 2 other things that could happen where we're really truthfully playing good team defense. And good team defense starts with good individual defense. If the individual defensive players are doing a great job, the team just complements the defense. If everyone's doing a great job on his person and then is helping with anyone else, we know we're going to play great team defense. All right, now let's defend the stop and go correctly. The defensive player will use that key concept of body positioning. He'll keep swimming, not falling for the stop and go. And here it comes. He's swimming through. He comes through. He stops. He's right back, and we've totally shut it down. Now, again, we'll follow that right back out with that same situation. He cuts down the inside, and so the player decides to RB, and then of course if it's from 4 to 6 meters, we drop right back in and help there. Also, the player who is defending against the drive also will pop back out. It's his, he still has a responsibility in helping stop the shot as well. But when we put all those concepts together, I think we can see how important it is to play defense in relationship to yards or meters away from the goal. And what we do at 8 meters against the driver, and what we do from 6 to 4 with the help of another player, and what we do from 4 in are all pretty predictable. And we don't want to get beat by pressing too tight outside at 8 meters. If they're going to RB it from there, that's a goalie save, or it better be. We play off of them, and we're playing for body positioning. We give the players, the driver, a place to go, but a place that we don't want, that he doesn't want to go. We don't let him into the strike zone. We try to keep him physically pressed out of that area in and around the cage. We get our body in a position and maneuver our body so that he has to go through us and create the offensive foul. So really driving defense, or defense against the driver, is really body positioning. And to position the body, we must keep the arms and legs working. From 6 to 4, we get stair-step help. From 4 in, we know if we've protected inside water properly, that now we can come to the vertical and use our hands. these are really critical defensive concepts against the driver, and when properly taught, you'll have excellent defensive players against the drive attack. And this really definitely needs to be practiced for a considerable amount of hours, and the players become highly skilled in it as soon as they relate to depth away from goal and where they can expect to have help. But I'll tell you, it's very difficult to get help inside. The only help that's left inside is with the goalie or with the 2-meter switch, or if someone illegally jumps off the bench to help you. And so you don't want to give inside water away, and that's the premise to this, that plus swimming. After learning to play good drive defense, we start learning how to recover from mistakes. And the first thing we want to do is recover from a little mistake. Little mistake meaning that we've got a chance of still going one-on-one on the defense and not having to pull a switch. Every time you have to switch, you're putting the defense into jeopardy. And so we try to avoid switching as much as possible. Switching, however, must be done when necessary. All right, we're going to look now, after having practiced good drive defense, against the little mistakes that will take place. And my feeling is that if a player can concentrate and play great position defense against the driver 85–90% of the time, then there's only 10% of the time that we might be in a little difficulty, and we have to learn to recognize, is it a big mistake or a little mistake. In a little mistake, we know that we're going to stay one-on-one on the defender, and if we're playing good position defense, a little mistake is still going to allow us to maintain a pretty good defensive position. The offensive player will be on the outside, and now we want to prevent the 4-meter, the ejection, so we're going to go what we call the extra stroke drill. Keep swimming. We let the goalie slide cross cage and really shut physically the near side down so that they've got no easy score on the strong side. They're going to have to go cross cage with the ball, and the defense will be done by the man who's been slightly beaten, and he will try to catch up, extra stroke, and reach across the player's face. So here he comes. He's barely up. He keeps swimming. He kept swimming, and he turns him out, and that's a good job. And that, believe me, is an important drill to work on. Let's follow that with what we don't want, and most oftentimes happens unless players are trained to play properly and do the extra stroke, catch up, reach across. And this is what players will commonly do. They'll slide into the back and create the 4-meter or the ejection foul. Here comes the same thing. Rather than going the extra stroke, he gets right on the back, goes for this shoulder there, and we have either a 4-meter ejection or, depending upon the rules of the time. Right, going from a small mistake, we go to a major mistake where the offensive player is really up on the drive, forcing the 2-meter switch. In our system, the goalie will cut down the strong side until he reads from our 2-meter defender that he is going to slide across and make the 2-meter switch to the driver. At that point in time, we know we've shut the drive down, and the danger is going to be the ball coming back to the 2-meter man on a layout. So the goalkeeper will automatically slide center cage and be in a position at least to try to make that block. And so it's really a 3-person readout. We read off the 2-meter guard, and the man who's been beaten outside on the driver also reads the 2-meter guard. We don't have to yell switch here. We read off the 2-meter guard. And the rule here is that if he can make the switch in 2.5 strokes, he'll make it. Otherwise, if it's 3 or 4 strokes, it's too far to go. We're going to rely on the extra stroke drill, catching up, and we will allow and the goalkeeper, of course, would remain strong side. All right, let's take a look at it. Here comes the 2-meter switch. There's the drive, the foul. He's up. Here's the drive there. Okay, and we've cut it down. Very nice switch with the goalkeeper moving cross cage. Now moving to defending the 2-meter man. We've looked at defending the driver. The other area of individual defense, obviously, is the 2-meter man. No matter what your concept is, whether it's pressing, whether it's drop back, whether you're fronting or not, it's very intelligent at the end of a counterattack when you're moving from counterattack D into backcourt defense to front the hole as long as possible. You're simply buying time. If it's taken them 12 seconds to counterattack, and if you front the hole at the end as soon as they move someone into 2 meters and you are able to front it for another 5, you've moved out to 17 seconds, maybe even to 20, where they may have only 15 seconds of effective front court offense left once they have are able to actually even put the ball into 2 meters. So let's look at this. We're at the end of the counterattack, and now he's moving around. Here comes the ball in, all right, and there would be the foul. Now that the 2-meter man has beaten us for position, we are in a situation where we must foul the pass coming in. Now, in all cases, the player that is being defended should not play immediately or directly behind the 2-meter man. If he does that, it's very difficult for him to make any switches to the outside when that situation arises. We want to play to the inside hip and try to get over that shoulder. So if the player is playing towards the right post, we will be working over his left shoulder. Now, we must teach players how to foul, because there are many ejection fouls at 2 meters, and the game can get very intense there, and the players have to be very, very careful that they make legal fouls. Let's look at a couple illegal fouls followed by the correct procedure. Here we go. This would be an illegal. He's guarding the inside, and he grabs him around the neck, pulls back, and reaches over the shoulder. This time he pushes him down and reaches over the shoulder. Let's look at it now correctly. Both of those would have been ejection fouls. Here comes the ball in. We'll actually foul it now. We'll make a correct foul. He will foul, and because it's the first foul, he will foul the man, try to get a piece of the ball, but then he is going to, after the foul's taken place, look to this side towards the camera, because that would be the drive side. That would be the position that he's not monitoring, and it would be where the most free water would be for a drive. And if he looks to that side, he will be prepared to make a switch if necessary. So here comes the ball in. Let's look at it. There's a legal foul. He's looking this way and staying in close contact with his man. Good job. You can practice the foul and look drill in training sessions by just pairing your team up. Make that foul and look, but just don't lose contact with the player. With that 2-meter player. Situation with the 2-meter man on the near post now. And the guard is to the inside hip, and here we go with a good foul on the look. There's the foul, and we take the look. We've got to be very careful that we're playing the ball at all times. All right, now we come to the second foul, or the 2-meter switch out. In this case, the guard should foul to try to really get a piece of the ball, but he can't flick it away or he'll be ejected, but to try to nudge that ball away from the 2-meter man. As soon as he's fouled, and he has already called by name in one of the perimeter players, either the point man or the man at 11 or 1, and he can't go through the 2-meter man, so he's got to call the people in from the side that he's on defensively. He'll call that name. Once he's made the foul and tried to nudge the ball, he'll slide slightly in front of the man and wait for the switch to come in. As the switch approaches him, then and only then will he leave. He can't leave early. Then and only then will he leave and come out and take the perimeter man. At that point in time, also the man that is guarding the wing position will drop in a little bit to take away the layout. All right, we're going to take a look at it and see what we get. Here it comes in. There's the foul, a piece of the ball. We've made the switch out, and it's very important that we do that. We'll do it one more time, one more time, and looking at it again, and we are emphasizing that the play be such that, here it comes, there's the foul, he got a piece of the ball, that he stays, and that we have that direct line. The player coming from the outside always gets the inside lane to the front, the 2-meter man, and that is very important. This is a good place to start fronting again, but he always has that inside lane. We don't want to get into which way do I go type of thing of dodgeball there. The defensive player who's made the foul always comes the outside lane. The player coming from the outside in always gets the center lane in, so there's never a question on that, and that's very, very important, along with the 2-meter guard not leaving until the defense is arriving. If you leave too early, you're leaving yourself wide open to the pass back to the 2-meter man. Now, leaving the area of individual defense, we really move in and apply team tactics to in the individual defensive tactics. We've already talked about stair-stepping. That's certainly a team tactic. Now we're going to look at what we call filling the gaps. With a 2-meter switch coming out, we want the goalkeeper to know if a shot's coming, where it's coming from. So in all cases, the only person in our system that will have a shot is the person who is being switched off of. We are going to do what we call filling gaps. We're going to stunt the outside to jam the radar of the 2-meter man, make him think that he might have a pass that in reality he really doesn't have. And we're just going to try to confuse him, but in all cases the outside defenders will really be guarding the men that they are originally with, and we are simply going to try to slow the pass down that the 2-meter man makes to the outside, giving us a chance to get out and on the ball quicker. At the same token, the goalkeeper at least knows there's no triangle switches here, that the only man that can conceivably have the shot is the man we've switched from. Okay, here we go. Same, filling the gaps. Taking a look at it, the good switch out, and we really slowed the 2-meter man down so he couldn't read it. Let's take a look now at the time switch. It's used on overpasses when it's too far to drop back to jam in front and take the pass away from the 2-meter man. This is a buy of 6 or 7 seconds in a ball game. We're going to look at it from both sides. Time switch. This is a triangle. It's the only triangle switch that we do in water polo. Looking at the time switch from both sides. Here we go. There's the foul. We're going to get the overpass. We break the sequence too deep to drop directly in on the 2-meter man. They've got to get the ball alive. We're at 4, 5, 6, 7. The goalie calls them out. We got about 8 seconds on that time switch. There we go. There's the time switch. Get the ball alive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We bought 6 seconds there. And in all cases, the goalie will call the man fronting back out. He will tell him to go back out. All right, we've looked at individual defense, the driver, the 2-meter man. We've looked at team defense, filling gaps, time switches. The other, two main concepts of defense will be the, what you're going to do. Are you going to press? Are you going to drop back? Most teams in the United States tend to play pressing defenses. Internationally, many teams press, many teams drop back. It really has a lot to do with how the referees are calling the 2-meter foul. If the 2-meter man guard is easily ejected, you'll see teams doing a lot of drop back concepts. In Volume 2, we'll take a long look at pressing defenses, drop-back defenses in practice and action. Also, we'll look at those individual drills that we've just gone through, looking in this Volume 1 at the basic instruction of the individual. We'll look at these now in team drills. In other words, setting them up so that your entire team in the half court is practicing the one-on-one defensive drive drills, the extra stroke drills, and this sort of thing.